Karen had always been a thorn in her neighbor's side, but when she glued his gate shut, unaware that the mayor was scheduled to arrive in mere minutes, an avalanche of chaos and consequences was about to be unleashed. What started as a petty act of spite quickly spiraled into a night no one would forget. The peaceful cul-de-sac was about to be rocked by an explosive confrontation. As the clock struck 7 p.m., a frantic knocking echoed through the quiet neighborhood. Mike flung open his front door to find his neighbor, Suzanne, trembling with panic. "Mike, it's an emergency. Karen glued your gate shut. The mayor is supposed to be here any minute," she blurted out, her words tumbling over each other. Mike felt the blood drain from his face. "What? Are you kidding me?" He charged across the yard, yanking at the obstinate gate, but it wouldn't budge. His knuckles turned white from the strain. "I tried everything, but it won't open," Susan cried, wringing her hands. "This is a disaster." "Damn it, Karen," Mike growled, glaring at the offending gate as if his sheer willpower could tear it open. He whirled around to face Susan, his eyes wild with panic. "We have to do something. The mayor can't see this. My career is on the line." Suzanne's face was etched with worry. "I'll call the police. Maybe they can." No, that'll take too long." Mike interrupted, his mind racing. "We have to handle this ourselves. Get me some WD-40 and a crowbar. Quick." Susan nodded and sprinted back to her house, her feet pounding the pavement. Mike paced anxiously, glancing at his watch every few seconds. The seconds ticked by like hours. Moments later, Susan returned, her arms laden with tools. "Here, this should do the trick." Mike snatched the items from her and got to work, frantically spraying and prying at the gate. Sweat beaded on his forehead as he strained every muscle, but the stubborn barrier refused to budge. "It's no use," he cried in frustration, flinging the crowbar to the ground. That damn Karen really outdid herself this time. Suzanne's face fell. "What are we going to do?" Mike ran his hands through his hair, desperation etching his features. "I don't know, but the mayor will be here any minute. This could ruin everything." A deafening silence fell over the cul-de-sac, broken only by the distant sound of an approaching car. Mike and Susan exchanged a panicked glance, realizing their time had run out. The rumble of the approaching car grew louder, echoing through the once peaceful neighborhood. Mike and Susan stood frozen, their eyes locked on the gate that refused to budge. "We have to do something," Susan whispered frantically. "If the mayor sees this, it could ruin everything for you." Mike's mind raced, desperate for a solution. Suddenly, an idea sparked. "I've got it. Help me lift the gate off the hinges." Suzanne's eyes widened. "Are you sure that'll work?" "It's our only chance," Mike replied, already positioning himself to lift the heavy gate. On the count of 3. 1, 2, 3. Together, they strained and grunted, their muscles protesting as they heaved the gate upwards. Inch by inch, it lifted off the hinges, swinging precariously. "Hurry. Get it out of the way," Mike urged, his voice strained. Susan darted forward, guiding the gate to the side just as the mayor's car came into view, turning the corner and heading straight towards them. "Quick, act natural," Mike hissed, smoothing down his shirt and pasting on a practiced smile. The sleek black vehicle pulled up in front of the house, and the mayor emerged, a warm smile on his face. "Mike, my friend," he called out, striding towards them. "So good to see you." "Mayor, what an honor," Mike replied, stepping forward to greet him. "Please come in." The mayor glanced around, his brow furrowing slightly. "Is everything all right? I noticed your gate was a bit ajar." Mike's heart pounded in his chest. "Oh, that. Just a minor issue, nothing to worry about." He waved a dismissive hand, praying the mayor wouldn't press the matter. Susan hovered nervously behind Mike, her eyes darting between the two men. The mayor studied them for a moment, then shrugged and continued towards the house. "Well, shall we get started?" he asked, gesturing for Mike to lead the way. Mike exhaled a silent sigh of relief and ushered the mayor inside, silently thanking Suzanne with a grateful nod. As the front door closed, the cul-de-sac fell into an uneasy silence once more. But Mike knew the storm was far from over. Karen's petty act of vengeance had put his political aspirations at risk, and he was determined to find a way to set things right, whatever the cost. As the front door closed behind Mike and the mayor, Susan let out a shaky breath. She surveyed the hastily displaced gate, her brow furrowed with worry. "Oh, Karen, what have you done?" she murmured to herself, shaking her head. Susan knew all too well the extent of the feud between her neighbors. Mike and Karen had been at odds for years, their petty squabbles escalating over the most trivial of matters. But this time, Karen had gone too far. Susan glanced anxiously towards the mayor's car, half expecting it to come bursting back out of the driveway at any moment. She couldn't bear the thought of Mike's political aspirations being derailed by Karen's vindictive antics. Steeling her nerves, Susan strode over to the gate and attempted to push it back into place, but the thick adhesive had rendered it unmovable. She let out a frustrated sigh and turned to head back to her own home, determined to come up with a plan. As she walked, Suzanne couldn't help but wonder what was happening inside Mike's house. Was the mayor oblivious to the gate fiasco? Or had Mike managed to somehow smooth things over? Either way, Suzanne knew she had to do something to help her friend. Reaching her front door, Suzanne paused and glanced back at the ominous gate, its jagged edges a testament to Karen's handiwork. A spark of determination flashed in her eyes. "If Karen thinks she can get away with this, she's got another thing coming," Suzanne muttered, her jaw set with resolve. Without hesitation, she marched back to the gate, eyes scanning the surrounding area. Spotting a can of WD-40 and a crowbar still lying on the ground, Suzanne quickly gathered the tools and set to work, determined to reverse the damage before it was too late. Time was of the essence, and Suzanne knew she had to act fast. As she pried and sprayed, the gate began to slowly yield, inch by inch. Gritting her teeth, she pushed with all her might, refusing to give up until the obstinate barrier was freed from its adhesive prison. Just as the gate swung open, the sound of the front door opening made Suzanne freeze. Her heart pounded as she watched the mayor emerge, a thoughtful expression on his face. Susan held her breath, bracing for the worst. What would the mayor say when he saw the evidence of Karen's mischief? The mayor paused on the front step, his gaze sweeping over the partially opened gate. Susan stood frozen, her heart pounding in her chest as she waited for his reaction. To her surprise, the mayor's lips curled into a wry smile. "Well, well, it seems your gate has had a bit of a mishap, hasn't it?" he remarked, amusement dancing in his eyes. Suzanne's mind raced, searching for the right words. I'm so sorry, Mayor," she stammered. "It's been a bit of a situation." The mayor chuckled and waved a dismissive hand. "No need to apologize, my dear. I can certainly appreciate a good bit of neighborhood drama." He glanced back towards the house, where Mike was presumably waiting anxiously. "Though I must say, your friend Mike seems a tad on edge." Susan felt a wave of relief wash over her. "Yes, well, you know how it is with these things," she replied, mustering a nervous laugh. The mayor nodded knowingly. "Indeed, indeed." He paused, his gaze settling on the gate once more. "You know, I have to say, I'm quite impressed by the tenacity of your handiwork here. It takes a skilled touch to glue a gate shut quite like this." Suzanne's eyes widened. "Oh, I didn't." The mayor raised a hand, silencing her. "No need to explain yourself, my dear. I'm simply appreciating the craftsmanship, as it were." Susan felt a flicker of confusion, unsure of how to respond. But before she could gather her thoughts, the mayor turned and headed back towards the house, his footsteps unhurried. "Well, "I best be getting back to your friend," he called over his shoulder. "Wouldn't want to keep him waiting now, would we?" Suzanne watched, dumbfounded, as the mayor disappeared back inside, the front door closing with a soft click. She stood there, clutching the crowbar, her mind reeling. Had the mayor known about Karen's mischief all along? And if so, what did that mean for Mike's political future? Suzanne knew she had to find out, and quickly. With renewed determination, she set to work, using the crowbar to pry the gate open even further. She had to get to the bottom of this before it was too late. As the gate finally swung free, Suzanne paused, her gaze drawn to the neatly trimmed hedges that lined the property. A glint of something caught her eye, and she leaned in for a closer look. Her breath caught in her throat as she recognized the familiar shape of a hidden camera, partially obscured by the foliage. Suzanne's heart raced. Had the mayor been monitoring the situation all along? Suzanne stared at the hidden camera, her mind reeling. Had the mayor known about Karen's prank all along? And if so, what did he have planned? Glancing nervously towards the house, Suzanne quickly pulled out her phone and snapped a few photos of the camera, wanting to have evidence in case she needed it. With her heart pounding, she hurried to the front door and rang the bell, determined to find out what was happening. After a few tense moments, the door swung open, and Mike's anxious face appeared. "Suzanne, what are you doing out here?" he whispered urgently. "The mayor is still inside." "Mike, I need to talk to you," Suzanne replied, her voice hushed but firm. "I found something you need to see." Mike's brow furrowed with concern, but before he could respond, a deep voice boomed from inside the house. "Ah, Suzanne, please, come in, come in," the mayor called out, his tone jovial. Susan and Mike exchanged a worried glance, but they had no choice but to obey. Stepping into the foyer, Susan immediately spotted the hidden camera, its red light blinking as it recorded their every move. The mayor stood in the middle of the room, a benevolent smile on his face. "I see you've discovered my little setup," he said, gesturing towards the camera. "Forgive the intrusion, but I do like to keep a close eye on my constituents." Mike's face paled. "Mayor, I can explain." The mayor raised a hand, silencing him. "No need, my friend. I already know all about your neighbor's little prank." He chuckled, his eyes twinkling with amusement. Susan and Mike exchanged a bewildered look, unsure of how to respond. "You see," the mayor continued, "I've had my eye on this neighborhood for some time. The, shall we say, colorful interactions between you and your neighbors have not gone unnoticed." He paused, his gaze sweeping over them. "And I must say, I'm quite impressed by the way you two have handled this little situation." Mike's brow furrowed with confusion. Impressed. But the gate. I thought for sure you'd be. Outraged, the mayor interjected, a wry smile spreading across his face. "On the contrary, my friend, I found it quite entertaining." Susan felt a chill run down her spine. "So, you're not upset?" The mayor chuckled. "Upset? Heavens, no. In fact, I'd say you two have handled this rather admirably." He paused, his expression turning more serious. "Which is why I have a proposition for you." Mike and Suzanne exchanged a bewildered glance, unsure of what to expect. The mayor's words hung in the air, leaving Mike and Suzanne exchanging puzzled looks. A proposition? What could he possibly have in mind? A proposition. Mike finally managed, his voice laced with trepidation. "What exactly are you proposing, Mayor?" The mayor's lips curled into a sly smile. "Well, my friend, I've been keeping a close eye on this neighborhood of yours, and I must say, the shall we say, drama has been quite entertaining." He paused, his gaze sweeping over Mike and Suzanne. "You see, I've been searching for a way to liven up my re-election campaign, and I believe your little community might just be the answer." Mike felt his heart drop. "You mean, you want to use us and our neighbors as some kind of political stunt?" The mayor chuckled. Stumped is such an ugly word, Mike. I prefer to think of it as capitalizing on a, shall we say, unique opportunity. Suzanne's brow furrowed. But how exactly do you plan to do that? And what does this have to do with Karen gluing my gate shut? The mayor's expression turned almost gleeful. Well, my dear, that's where the real fun begins. You see, I've been quite impressed by the way you and Mike have handled this little situation. The quick thinking, the problem solving. It's exactly the kind of thing I need to showcase to my constituents. He paused, his eyes twinkling with mischief. And what better way to do that than by turning this into a televised event? A live, unscripted look at the inner workings of a vibrant, thriving community. Mike felt a knot form in the pit of his stomach. You want to turn our neighborhood into some kind of reality TV spectacle. The mayor shrugged, seemingly unfazed by Mike's distress. Call it what you will, my friend. But I can assure you, the exposure will be worth it. Imagine the headlines. Mayor saves the day in neighborhood drama. Think of the publicity, the votes it could bring in. Suzanne's eyes narrowed. And what about Karen? What role does she play in all of this? The mayor's smile widened. Ah, yes, the infamous Karen. Well, my dear, I'd say she's the perfect foil, the villain, if you will, in this little drama of ours. Mike felt a surge of anger. So you want to exploit our neighbor's petty feud for your own political gain? That's unethical, not to mention an invasion of our privacy. The mayor held up a hand, silencing him. Now, Mike, let's not be so hasty. Think of the opportunities this could bring. The exposure, the clout, it could be the key to taking your own political career to the next level. Mike felt Susan's gaze on him, and he knew she was thinking the same thing. Could they really go along with the mayor's scheme, even if it meant turning their neighborhood into a spectacle? As the weight of the mayor's proposition settled over them, Mike and Suzanne exchanged a troubled look, unsure of where to go from here. The silence in the room was deafening as Mike and Suzanne grappled with the mayor's unexpected proposal. Their quiet deliberation was interrupted by the distinct sound of a car pulling up outside. Suzanne's eyes widened. Karen. Sure enough, the front door flew open, and a furious Karen stormed in, her face flushed with rage. All right, which one of you idiots called the cops on me? She bellowed, her gaze darting accusingly between Mike and Suzanne. The mayor stepped forward, a benevolent smile plastered on his face. Ah, Karen, so good of you to join us. Karen's eyes narrowed as she turned to face the mayor. What's going on here? She demanded. The mayor spread his hands in a gesture of welcome. Why, nothing much, my dear. We were simply discussing a mutually beneficial opportunity. Karen scoffed, her skepticism palpable. Opportunity? What are you talking about? The mayor's smile widened. Well, you see, I couldn't help but notice the, shall we say, lively interactions between you and your neighbors. And I must say, I found it rather entertaining. Karen's brow furrowed, and she glanced around the room, as if expecting to find hidden cameras. Entertainment? What is this, some kind of hidden camera show? The mayor chuckled. In a manner of speaking, yes. You see, I've been thinking about ways to liven up my re-election campaign, and I believe your little community could be the perfect backdrop. Karen's eyes widened, and she took a step back, her expression a mix of confusion and alarm. You want to use us as some kind of political stunt? The mayor shrugged nonchalantly. Stunt is such an ugly word, my dear. I prefer to think of it as a mutually beneficial arrangement. Karen's gaze narrowed as she turned to Mike and Suzanne. And you two are in on this? Mike cleared his throat uncomfortably. Well, we were just discussing the mayor's proposal. Karen's eyes flashed with fury. Discussing. So, you're betraying me for your own political gain. Is that it? Susan held up her hands in a placating gesture. Karen, please, it's not like that. We were just... Save it. Karen snapped, her voice dripping with venom. I knew I couldn't trust you too. Well, you can forget it. I'm not going to be some pawn in your little political circus." The mayor's expression darkened. Now, Karen, let's not be hasty. Think of the exposure, the attention this could bring. Surely, even you can see the potential benefits." Karen let out a harsh laugh. "Benefits? The only benefit I see is getting as far away from you and your sleazy opportunity as possible." She turned on her heel and stormed out, the front door slamming behind her with a resounding thud. Mike and Suzanne exchanged a troubled look, unsure of what to do next. The mayor, on the other hand, merely shrugged and turned his attention back to them. "Well, that was interesting," he mused, a hint of amusement in his voice. "But no matter. I have a feeling Karen will come around. In the meantime, my friends, what do you say we put our heads together and make some magic happen?" The mayor's words hung in the air, his gaze fixed on Mike and Suzanne with an unsettling intensity. Karen's dramatic exit had left the room charged with tension, and the two neighbors exchanged a wary glance, unsure of how to respond. "Make magic happen," Mike echoed, his brow furrowed with concern. "You can't honestly expect us to go along with this political circus you've got planned." The mayor's smile never wavered. "My dear friend, don't be so skeptical. Think of the opportunities this could bring, the exposure, the clout. Surely, even you can see the potential benefits." Susan stepped forward, her eyes narrowed. "Benefits? You're talking about exploiting our neighborhood, our friends, for your own personal gain. That's unethical, not to mention an invasion of our privacy." The mayor chuckled, unfazed by her objections. "Privacy. My dear, in this day and age, privacy is a luxury few can afford. Besides, think of the excitement, the drama. Your neighbors will be the stars of the show." Mike shook his head, his jaw set with determination. "No, absolutely not. We won't be a part of this. Not now. Not ever." The mayor's expression darkened, a hint of frustration creeping into his voice. Now, Mike, let's not be hasty. I'm offering you a golden opportunity here, one that could propel your own political ambitions to new heights." Suzanne placed a hand on Mike's arm, her gaze unwavering. "We're not interested, Mayor. This isn't the kind of publicity we want, or the kind of community we want to be a part of." The mayor's eyes narrowed, and for a moment, the genial facade slipped, revealing a glimmer of irritation. "I see. Well, that's rather unfortunate. I had such high hopes for our little arrangement." He let out a long, exaggerated sigh, then shrugged. "Very well, if that's how you feel. But mark my words, my friends, you may come to regret this decision." With that, he turned and headed for the door, his steps measured and deliberate. As he reached for the doorknob, he paused and glanced back over his shoulder. "Oh, and about that gate of yours, Mike. I'd get that fixed up if I were you. You never know when the next unexpected visitor might arrive." The door closed behind him with a resounding click, leaving Mike and Suzanne standing in stunned silence. Susan let out a shaky breath. "Do you think he was?" Mike nodded grimly. "Threatening us? I'd bet my life on it." The two neighbors exchanged a weighty look, the weight of their decision suddenly pressing down on them. But in the end, they knew they had made the right choice, even if it meant facing the wrath of a powerful politician. As they turned to face the still open gate, Mike couldn't help but feel a tinge of unease. What did the mayor have up his sleeve? And how far would he go to get what he wanted? One thing was certain: the battle lines had been drawn, and the war for the soul of their neighborhood had only just begun.